The morning after the glittering lights of the British Academy Film Awards faded, the studio of Good Morning Britain felt brighter than usual, not because of celebration but because of tension. At the center of it all sat Susanna Reid, poised, polished, and used to walking the tightrope between sensitivity and scrutiny. The BAFTAs had delivered their usual mix of glamour and applause, but it was one particular moment that had spilled beyond the red carpet and into Britain's living rooms. A new film, I Swear, had stunned audiences with its raw portrayal of John Davidson, a Tourette's campaigner whose life had been serialized with painful honesty. The role had been played by Robert Aramayo, whose performance earned him Best Actor. It was a win many described as powerful, deserved, and long overdue. But it was not the trophy that dominated headlines the next morning. It was the language. During the awards ceremony, a racial slur, uttered involuntarily as part of Tourette's syndrome, had been broadcast live. It was uncomfortable. It was jarring. It forced viewers into a complicated moral space where empathy collided with outrage. And now, on ITV's breakfast sofa, the nation was dissecting it. Susanna leaned slightly forward as the clip finished rolling. "I'm still thinking about the language," she said carefully. "It's completely unacceptable." Her voice carried conviction, the tone of someone accustomed to defending social boundaries. She acknowledged what many already knew: people with Tourette's cannot control their tics. But she added a line that would ignite social media within minutes. "There's plenty of people watching who say, why should a racial slur ever be accepted or simply brushed away?" The words hung in the air. Across from her, co-host Ed shook his head gently. "There's two different issues," he responded. "If this racial slur was said at the awards ceremony, it shouldn't have been broadcast. The guy who has Tourette's, apologizing for his disability is not fair or right. It's not in his control. If it was me, I would have bleeped out the racial slur and not had the apology." It was a subtle but crucial distinction: responsibility versus condition. Susanna didn't retreat. "But it's absolutely vital that you apologize for it. A racial slur is always something, presumably, that needs to be apologized for." Ed replied, calm but firm. "They ought to have apologized for having it on the program, but apologizing for the gentleman with Tourette's, you can't apologize for his disability." For viewers, it was more than a debate. It was deeply personal. Within moments, social media erupted. "Totally uncaring. Stupid and dismissive. She doesn't understand Tourette's. Do better, GMB." Others defended her, arguing that she was raising a legitimate concern about harmful language, regardless of context. The nation had split. Not over whether racism is wrong, there was no dispute there, but over where accountability begins and ends when a medical condition is involved. Back in the studio, the discussion moved on. But online, it did not. Tourette's syndrome, a neurological condition characterized by involuntary tics, sometimes including vocal outbursts, has long been misunderstood. Coprolalia, the involuntary utterance of socially inappropriate words, affects only a minority of those with Tourette's. Yet it is the symptom most sensationalized, most misrepresented. John Davidson, the real-life campaigner behind I Swear, had spent years fighting precisely that misunderstanding. His story, now immortalized on screen, was meant to challenge stigma, not deepen it. Some critics argued that Susanna's comments risked reinforcing the idea that people with Tourette's must carry moral responsibility for symptoms they cannot control. Others countered that she was speaking from a broader ethical standpoint, that racial slurs, regardless of origin, cause harm and cannot simply be ignored. The debate revealed something larger than a breakfast television spat. It exposed the fragile intersection between disability and social justice. Can something be both involuntary and harmful? Can empathy and accountability coexist? Who apologizes, and for what? For seasoned broadcaster Susanna Reid, controversy is not new territory. Years in live television have required quick thinking, firm opinions, and sometimes uncomfortable conversations. But this moment felt different, more layered, more emotionally charged. Because this wasn't about political spin or celebrity scandal. It was about language, about disability, about race, about compassion. Viewers who live with Tourette's or care for someone who does describe the moment as painful. Many said the focus should have remained on the BAFTA win, on representation, on awareness, on triumph over stigma. Instead, the spotlight had shifted. Yet others insisted that discomfort is necessary, that difficult conversations are precisely what breakfast television should host. By midday, headlines had crystallized the backlash: Susanna, slammed. Viewers, furious. Comment, uncaring. But beneath the noise, a quieter truth lingered. Live television is imperfect. So are human reactions. In trying to defend one principle, zero tolerance for racial slurs, Susanna may have appeared to some as overlooking another, the non-negotiable reality of neurological disability. The clash was not between right and wrong, but between two rights colliding. As the cameras switched off and the studio lights dimmed, the debate continued online, in homes, in advocacy groups, and in newsrooms. Perhaps that, in itself, was telling. Because I Swear was created to spark awareness. To make people uncomfortable enough to learn. To start conversations that are messy, emotional, and unresolved. And that is exactly what happened. By evening, neither side had truly won the argument. But thousands were talking about Tourette's syndrome, what it is, what it isn't, and why understanding matters. The BAFTA statue on Robert Aramayo's mantelpiece symbolized artistic recognition. The morning after debate symbolized something else entirely, the ongoing struggle to balance empathy with accountability in a world where words matter deeply. For Susanna Reid, it was another reminder of the razor's edge of live broadcasting. For viewers, it was a test of how compassion is defined. And for John Davidson's story, it proved one undeniable thing: the conversation is far from